All right. Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a little bit of a somber conversation. As we know, there's been a death in the ring. Mr. Dadashev and his family, my prayers go out to you. We're also going to talk a little bit about the effects of this and what should change in boxing in this video. All right. Maxim Dadashev passed away yesterday in after having been placed in surgery from the injuries, the brain injuries that he suffered in his fight on ESPN last Friday. So rightfully so, there is a lot of rest in peace, a lot of respect for him as a fighter, as a person, a lot of concern for his family. I'm not sure if he has children, for his team. I believe Buddy McGirt was his trainer, and he stopped the fight, but stopped the fight a little late. Obviously just an all around very, very sad, very, very sad situation. So the celebration of his life, the appreciation of him as a warrior in the sport and somebody that, just had a no quit spirit. Hey, all of those things need to take place, and that young man deserves it. And my heart goes out to his family and everybody that is involved. Aegis Klimas, I saw him, holding his gloves, really concerned about him. I believe that's what his manager is. So, everybody out in Russia that knew him or didn't know him are just concerned about him. But this also is something I think is an opportunity, because this year has not been as many deaths as there was in 2017. In 2017, I do recall that there was maybe 3 or 4 people that were placed in comas. I think maybe one passed away. And it's just a really terrible thing, man. But there's a couple things, man, that I think could help minimize the problem, or at least prevent something really horrific from happening in the sport of boxing, which I think, unfortunately, is going to happen it is going to happen, which is that somebody's going to actually die on television for everybody to see. And I believe that is the case because there's so much emphasis put on the things that keep a fighter from mitigating the chances of that happening. And let me be very clear what I mean by that. There is a serious lack of appreciation in the media and by sports fans and what they desire to market for bloodbaths, bloody, no defensive fights where every time somebody's getting hit, people are sustaining severe brain trauma. If you listen to how people talk about Pernell Whitaker, or how they talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr., or they talk about somebody that is moving around and not exchanging punches, it's as if they treat these people as if they are stealing something from the sport of boxing. They call Pernell Whitaker a defensive fighter, Floyd Mayweather Jr. a great defensive fighter. And then they celebrate fighters like a Ruslan Provodnikov or a rest in peace Arturo Gatti, or people that that if you put them in the ring, you're going to wind up getting rock'em sock'em robots and, blood all over the place, and the action's going to be there. And if the action's there, then hey, we can sell the action, we can sell the blood and guts, all of that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, Ruslan Provodnikov is suffering brain damage, unnecessary brain damage, if he was able to. And I do believe this is the case. I do believe there are fighters that have the ability to use good defense. They don't do it because they get criticized too much for not allowing the other guy to hit them. For example, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Look at Guillermo Rigondeaux's last fight. Guillermo Rigondeaux's last fight, he stood right in the pocket, probably took more punishment than he had in the last 6 years. And when he was asked, why did you fight like that? He said, I wanted to show people that I could have an exciting fight. Why would he need to do that? Because his experience as a fighter being that they would use his defensive prowess as a reason to blackball him and prevent him from fighting on TV because he wasn't giving them the blood and guts that they wanted. The sport of boxing it's not just called prize fighting. It's called the sweet science. And the scientific boxers are the ones that get hit and don't get hit. They hit and they don't get hit. And the culture, the media culture in boxing, the media culture, the fights that people choose, that they choose to air, the fighters that they choose to promote when it's in their interest, are the people that take a ton of shots to the head. Also, you have promoters that have these fight cards that are setting up mismatch after mismatch after mismatch after mismatch. If you continually set up people with people that have no business whatsoever being in the ring with each other, eventually something very tragic is going to happen. When you have people of equal skill fighting one another or close to equal skill fighting one another, more than likely those guys are not going to sustain serious injury because they're on par with one another. If one fighter decides that he might have taken a shot and he needs to clear his head, he might be able to move and stay out of the way, lose the round, let his head clear, live to go to the next fight. But when you have somebody like a Caleb Plant fighting a Mike Lee, and Mike Lee doesn't belong in the ring with him, and the promoter sets the fight up so that you can get Caleb Plant a spectacular knockout, you wind up having a guy that has no business being there, putting his head in all kind of crazy positions, opening himself up for terrific, and by terrific, I don't mean yay, applause, terrific shot. I mean like terrifying, like wow, that hurts type of shots. So between the bloodlust for the promoter from the television networks, the mismatches from the promoters, the refusal to, or the negative press that people get for actually doing what you're supposed to do in the ring, which is hit and get not hit and not get hit. It's a toxic mess waiting to happen. And the thing that really, aside from the man passing away, is that I knew that he was going to. When you saw him come out of the ring and his body was limp and he couldn't coordinate his legs and all the stuff you saw coming out of him when he was on the gurney, you realize, man, this guy's in really, really, really bad shape, man. Which brings me to the point of the referee. The referee in that fight, I didn't see the whole fight. I saw the last several rounds, maybe the last 3 rounds of the fight. And I saw him taking a lot of shots, following him down, taking a lot of shots. Sometimes we get on referees like Jay Nady. Jay Nady is a guy that stopped the fight with Costa Tszyu and Zab Judah. And, you call him like, man, he's always going to stop it early. Like, that's a bad stoppage. He could have went on. Jay Nady more than likely is never, if Jay Nady was in that ring, more than likely, there's a chance that might not have happened with Jay Nady. Jay Nady might have seen a couple shots get in there like, oh, you're not being responsive. You're taking too many shots. I don't like how you're reacting to these things now. He could have stopped the fight. But a referee like Jack Reese, who can literally see a man get concussed, eyes roll back in his head, go unconscious, will scream at him to get up and continue for the good of boxing, is dangerous to the fighter, and he's dangerous to the sport of boxing. Because that is definitely a situation where he could have got up, finished the fight, walked down the stairs, fainted, and been in the hospital. Also, performance enhancing drugs and the fact that these are that in the UK you can have testosterone exemptions, but in the United States, in certain states, you can't have testosterone exemptions. You have fights where guys like Cletus Sheldon fight Zab Judah. I'm not sure why Zab Judah decided to fight Cletus Sheldon, but I saw, shout out to Reggie Owens, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, said that it's out there now that Zab Judah believes he was on performance enhancing drugs. Of course he believes he was, because more than likely he was, because he had popped dirty before, and you could just look at the dude and see that guy more than likely is juiced up. You also have guys like Big Baby Miller coming out with literally testing positive for every drug known to every performance enhancing drug known to mankind. He gets a 6-month suspension. More than likely he's going to be back out there again, fighting again soon. You also have laws in states that say, hey, it's not the promoter's responsibility to provide medical care for the fighter, it's the state commission. So if the state commission if something goes wrong, it's not on the promoter, it's not on the manager, it's not on the trainer, it's not on the ref, it's on the state. And so if the state used due diligence, hey man, it's on the state. It's not on the promoter. So the promoter doesn't have any interest whatsoever in making sure that doesn't take place. But they will cry and they will be upset and they will feel very, very terrible that somebody passed away. And then they'll have a fight card on next week. And the scenario is going to be the exact same thing. And hey, man, we need for you, in the words of Abel Sanchez, we need you to fight Mexican style. We need you to stop moving around and ducking your head, man. Seriously, that's not, the crowds don't want, the crowds buy knockouts, son. They buy knockouts. So, for me, the Dadashev thing is terrible. And listening to, the boxers, celebrate his life, commend him for his courage, because man, these boxers get in that ring, that is something else, man. It really, really is. Every fight that I've been to, man, watching how punches on TV that you don't really think land that heavy, how they knock a spray of sweat, 5-6 feet out of the ring on shots that don't even look that hard on television, let alone the big ones that just lay and drop you out, just drop a guy off. I remember listening to a punch that landed by Roy Jones Jr. on John Ruiz, and I was, way back, and it sounded like a cannon went off. So, man, I commend the fighters that are out there doing that for our entertainment. These are sad times, but I just really wish that if being sad is one thing, doing something about it is something else. There's a lot of problems in boxing. There's a lot of risk in boxing that just not going to go away. At the end of the day, people are in there to concuss one another. That's the purpose of boxing. However, there are things that you can do to minimize that risk. And if you discourage the things that minimize the risk and minimize the dangers to the fighter, like using defense, then what your actions are doing is you're increasing the risk that these things are gonna happen. And if something happens like what happened with Emil Griffith and Benny Perret, forgive me if I miss those names out, that happened, I think that was the early 1960s, maybe late 1950s, where a guy actually did pass away on television. Look, man, there's going to be reforms and all kind of nonsense popping off that might affect the sport of boxing. So let's hope for positive change. Let's hope that what happened with Maxim Dadashev can lead to smarter decisions by people in the ring, smarter decisions by people that are training the people in the ring, smarter decisions by the commissions that oversee the people in the ring, and the networks that are selling the product to the end user and to the consumer. And so it's my thought on the process. That's my thought on the subject. Let me know what you think in the comment section. RIP to Maxim Dadashev, and I'm out. Peace.